Good evening, dear colleagues. Exactly 4 p.m. will start. We'll start by looking at the developmental policy of the past administration. Then we'll talk about official communication in service. And this will lead us to how do you develop an ESCO memo? What is the importance of an ESCO memo? What are the general contents of an ESCO memo? So that's what we'll do between 4 to 5. By 5 o'clock, Pastor Sojino will join us to take policy developments as it relates to professional officers. Thank you, and you're all welcome. So before my Oga on the top join us, let's kickstart today's class. It's going to be an interactive forum. And basically the main idea of why policy development and official communication it's important for us is that for civil servants, most especially for most of us that are professionals, we share two roles. We are expected to do our professional work, go to the lab, go to the field, do treat wastewater, and also do administrative work. So as a scientific officer, you are not only a scientific officer, you are also an admin officer. So any information that has to do with administration of your office, administration of your agency, you are bound to know everything about it. So you can't say because I'm a scientific officer, anything that has to do with policy formulation, policy implementation, policy development, I will not. No, immediately you are a management staff starting from level 12. You are expected to familiarize yourself with basic policy of the state government. And yesterday, in part of the discussion of Mr. Sojinu, he has informed us about Lagos State policy developments, which has been core developmental documents by which different administration in the states has always been working on. So we'll look at how policy formulation in Lagos State started and how each of the administration of the past civilian government has come into play with it, and we now move into official communication. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lasisi Adedoyin, Office of Environmental Service. I want to be clear. Can everybody hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, my sister. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir.
So at the end of this section, each participant is supposed to familiarize ourselves with the policy thrust of subsequent administration and the present administration, the teams plus. The first term of the administration, we had teams. But this, now we have teams plus. The second one is, we'll talk about understanding communication in service. Communication in service. How do you communicate effectively in service? Thereafter, we'll now discuss the major part of an executive memo. So, like we all know, Lagos State was created May 27, 1967. That is something that each and every one of us has been familiar with. Adeyanju, can somebody help me to call Falaye? She's trying to call me. Somebody should help me call Falaye.
I will.
Thank you. So since the creation of the states, we've had 9 military administrators and we've had 6 civilian governors. The first one, which is Alhaji Lateef Jakande, had his policy trusts on 4 key pillars. Had its policy trust on 4 key pillars: free education, free health service, integrated rural and community development, full and sustainable employment. So, Jakande education, free health service, integrated rural development, these are part of his core administrative activities. And because of that, he was able to implement a lot of programs. Some of the programs that they did during his administration, the state secretariat that each and every one of us enjoying today was one of the landmark projects. Several housing estates that we call today Jakande estates. That time, people were going to school in the morning, and people were also going to school in the afternoon, and people are going to school in the evening. Afternoon school, evening school. But he was able to abolish afternoon and evening school by setting up what they call Jakonde School. Able to set up Jakonde School. So he was able to let everybody see that you don't need huge amount of money for you to set up schools. And most of us, we attended that school. We just have blocks around, and the larger part of the schools were open. And with that, they were able to create schools in different parts of the state. Following the UPN mantra, free education for both primary and secondary school, that time people have to pay to go to school, which makes most people not being able to have access to education. So because of that, they have many schools and also have free education. Construction of Bagada and Ikorodu General Hospital, part of it. Also, it started healthcare centers. Yes, we may not have money to have big hospitals, but we can have healthcare centers. That's also started during his administration. Establishment of the Traditional Medicine Board, which some of scientific officers are also there now. His administration established Traditional Medicine Board. Establishment of an asphalt plant, which was in Ojodu then, because we cannot rely, they believe that the state government cannot rely on contractors alone to fix the roads. So Lagos has its own asphalt plant for routine maintenance. Up to today, the Lagos State Public Works Bureau have its own asphalt plant. They also established the electricity board, construction of Adiyan Water Works, building of the Lagos State House of Assembly, building of Lagos Television. We started Lagos Television and also Radio Lagos. And that time also, he established the State Traffic Management Authority, Masha. You know, everybody felt LASMA is the first traffic marshal that we started in Lagos State. No, it has started long. The first initiative was brought into the state during the administration of Alhaji Lateef Jakonde. So it was later recreated and revamped during the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So these are key things that were carried out during his own administration. So we can be asked, the first executive governor of Lagos State, what are his policy thrusts? What are his policy thrusts? What are some of the things you think happened during his administration? Free education, free health service, integrated rural and community development, full and sustainable employment. And these are some of the achievements during his administration. Thereafter, we have the second executive governor, which is Sir Michael Agbolade Otedola. So, some of the trickiest questions they can put to us, name two executive governor of the state. So, military are not executive. So, some of us will quickly start mentioning, but we have to listen to the person asking the question before we. So, during the Sir Michael Agbolade Otedola was the second executive governor, and he was the governor that introduced Center of Excellence, the acronym that's the team name that all of us know Lagos for now, started during his administration. Center of Excellence. He implemented the Jubilee Mass Transit, and that time we had a rail system working in Lagos then, owned by Lagos State government. So people may feel it started during Governor Sanwo-Olu administration. No, we had a Jubilee rate system in Lagos State during the administration of Sir Michael Agbolade Otedola, and he also started the Jubilee Mass Transit system. And he followed suit. He followed suit with what Governor Jakonde did by having Jubilee Housing Estate. By having Jubilee Housing Estate, we have some in Ekpe, we have some in Etiosa, we have in Agege. So he also initiated the centralized staff bus system. He had a system whereby they felt, okay, the transport system in Lagos was becoming cumbersome and staffs were coming late. So in order to ensure that staffs gets to work easily, they had a centralized staff bus system. Each agency, each ministry were having their own staff bus, mini bus to bring staffs to the secretariat. But he decided to have a centralized staff bus system, and we are still enjoying it up to now. He completed the state auditorium, the Adeyemi Bero Auditorium, where most of the state government functions now are. He started. It was started before him, and he completed it. The third executive governor is the current president, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was in power for 8 years. And the first 2 months or 3 months of his administration, they had a summit in Akodo. After forming his cabinet, they had a summit in Akodo where they call Lagos Economic Advancement Program, and came up with 10-point agenda. So the policy thrust of Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos State was based on 10-point agenda. You know, we could not have clear direction of Sir Michael Otedola policy trust, but he came up with what we call Lagos Center of Excellence. Everything we want to do was to make it excellent in Lagos State. But Governor, the current president had what we call 10-point agenda. And his 10-point agenda was basically road, transportation, power and water supply, environment and physical planning, health, education, employment, food security, shelter, and revenue enhancement. So during his administration, we had revenue enhancement, shelter, food, employment, education, health, environment and physical planning, water supply, transportation, and road. So somebody said they can't hear a single thing. It's my hand or it's general. I think it should be your end though. I think everybody's. Can you hear me, please? Hello, guys. Hello,
Yes.
colleagues. Can
Yes,
Yes, we
yes.
can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Mojisola, please check your end. It will be from your own network. Thank you. So, if we are asked about Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos State, everybody can clearly understand that one thing that we all credit him for is increasing the revenue generation of Lagos State, and which is one of the 10-point agenda of his administration, revenue enhancement. He sees that, yes, a lot of leakages were in Lagos State revenue, and we have this population. Let's take the advantage of this population and increase our revenue, and which he surely did. In terms of environment, one of the key things he also does was, that was when we had Kai. That was when we had Kai, launching of Kai. PSP, the pilot PSP program started before his administration, but immediately it came in, it increased. We had, that time it was only piloted in 2 local governments, but it was statewide, and we are still enjoying it till today. Let's look some of his achievements. High investment in education, many roads, Oregon Road, you can Egbeda Road, and these are part of the thing during his administration. Construction of Sorry, I think it's network from my hand. So huge investment in education, creation of the FCDA, initiated the bus rapid system, which everybody now call the BRT, construction of Millennium School. We have the one in Ojuju, Millennium Estates. The Engbeti Summit also started during his administration. They also initiated the Lagos Mega City projects, which we all have around. Establishment of LASMA. So, like I said, Governor Jack Conde started the road marshal then, but later, when the military was phased out, but Governor, the present president initiated LASMA. We have LASMA up to now. One of these is the key health program that we all familiar during his administration is what we call Jigi Bola. Jigi Bola that everybody know. And apart from that, we also have Ikeja General Hospital was upgraded to a teaching hospital, which is now known as LASUT. So he also introduced the PSP to waste management program. I said the state was having it as a pilot program then, but later it make it wide in the whole state. One of the major achievements to most of us then was the recruitment of the Millennium staff, which I am, and most of us are. We are proud of that. We got employed into the state civil service, and that elevates Lagos State generally, and that's why nearly every state wants to come into Lagos and understudy Lagos, because he had the bold step of recruiting over 2,000 civil servants, fresh graduates from the university, just to join the civil service. No state has ever done it before in Nigeria, and now Lagos State is benefiting from that big steps the president made then. And now you can see all other states coming to Lagos to understudy the state. So after that, he was followed by Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN. So who took over from the president. And we all know the story. He was the chief of staff, and he followed. His administration also adopted the 10-point agenda. And with the 10-point agenda, he said, okay, if I have the 10-point agenda, but he really want to focus on some. So he focused on parts. He said, yes, we are going to have 10-point agenda, but I will focus on power, agriculture, transportation, and housing. So he followed his predecessor plan of the 10-point agenda and introduced a new look. And he just wanted to have the civil service nature. He wanted the states to have the corporate identity. So each ministry, each agency had their vision, their mission, and we have a lot of things. And it was during his administration that we started the Lagos State Developmental Plan 2012 to 2025, where all activities, plans, programs of the states were documented. So that time, he focused, apart from the 10-point agenda, he said, okay, we have a 10-point agenda, but I really want to focus on parts. So power, agriculture, transportation, and agriculture. And some of the key thing he did then was rehabilitation of road. The Eco-Atlantic City Surge plan started during the present administration, but the actual work started during Governor Fashola. Construction of road, flyovers, and pedestrian bridges, rural transformation, electricity and water, modernization of abattoir. So we are having Oduerno, just people slaughtering along the side of the road. But Ministry of Agriculture started having large, whereby private sector comes into having their own abattoir and slaughter slab. He built and commissioned 15 waterworks. It was massive. Then we had waterworks in different parts of the states during Governor Fashola's administration. Also, like I said, he said he wanted to focus on parts. We had 5 power plants during his administration. Alausa Power Plant, Marina Power Plant, Ikeja Power Plant, Lekki Power Plant, believing that, yes, I really want to, and all these power plants serve some government institutions. Let's take this government institution out of the national grid and see. So that was part of, and he also did housing estates. We had a lot of housing estate that was constructed during his administration. And he also initiated and started the Security Trust Fund, having the idea that government alone cannot fund security. And they launched the Security Trust Fund, where companies like, I can recollect them, MTN, Airtel, donating cars and huge amount of money to the state government. One big effort during the administration of Governor Fashola, we all familiar with, is the urban greening and climate change. It was during Governor Fashola administration that Lagos State took the bold step in urban greening. We see most of the loops and most of this area we're seeing now were actually illegal dump sites. Ojota, where illegal dump sites were places where area boys joins together. The states during its administration, we upgraded those places and we had a lot of parks. Urban greening was one of the key activities during Governor Fashola. And that time also we started the climate change summits and the climate change. So we had a lot of programs. So as a staff Ministry of Environment during this administration, we had urban greening, we had climate change, we have others. So thereafter, the 5th executive governor, Mr. Akinwumi Dapo Ambode, who came in after Governor Fashola, is the 5th executive governor. His own policy trust was, he also followed suit with which is, I mean, who had parts. So he said his own is the parts. The parts. D, parts. T for transportation, H for housing, E for education, P for fiscal planning, agriculture, revenue generation, and tourism. The parts. So during his administration, we had, his policy trust was the parts. His parts with the citizen, with Lagosians, and transportation, housing, education, physical planning, agriculture, revenue generation, and tourism. And if we can all recollect, during his administration was when Lagos State started Fiesta. That's when Lagos State started Fiesta during Governor Ambode. So we had Fiestas, we had cinemas in different parts of the state, and we were celebrating December with fun. That time, most people traveled to their states during December, were unable to even, some have to stay in Lagos because it was fun during his. So some of his key achievement then was the safety arena. So the idea of the safety arena is, okay, let's have in different corners of the state, whereby we can have all agencies that's concerned safety, LASMA, CAI, Neighborhood Watch, Safety Commission. So if there's an emergency, it's easy to coordinate from there. And I can also recollect that during Governor Fashola, we started the command center. Lagos State had the command center during Governor Fashola. We had the command center, and we had the launch of 767 and 112. We had it. So when citizens call the command center and they can be dispatched, and most of the dispatch starts from Alausa, and he said, no, if there's an emergency in Ekpe, would they leave all the way from Alausa to Ekpe? If there's an emergency in Oshodi, would they leave? Because of the nature of traffic in the state. So we started building safety arena at different corners of the state. So He also constructed 300 roads, commenced the construction of 10-lane Oshodi Airport, and we all know Abule Egba flyover, Ajah flyover. These are one of the key success story of Governor Ambode. He established some new fire stations, and with Lagos State partner with Kebbi State, and we have Lake Rise. Then we had Lake Rise, and we still have it now. So these are some of the major achievements of Governor. So one of the key things he also does was we started giving grants to CDA. We know, because that community development also contributes one way or the other. Some CDAs will do road on their own, some CDA will do power projects, and the state government started giving grants to CDA. One of the iconic structure that we all know today about Lagos, some of us that grew up in Lagos knew how Oshodi used to be. During Governor Fashola, we cleared Oshodi, and Governor Ambode revamped the place, and we had Oshodi Terminal. And anybody taking picture of Lagos today, you know that the structure in Oshodi is something we can all be proud about. He also started the Employment Trust Fund, where Lagos State give grants to the indigenous and people business to support business. So that's part of. After him come the 6th executive governor, who is presently the chief executive. His own is Mr. Governor, Mr. Selebu, that most of us call him. So his own strategic points is the team's agenda. It started with the team's agenda. And I will encourage each and every one of us to have the team's agenda as part of the key things we are going to have at the back of our mind. These questions from the team's agenda are part of the team. Some of us who are going to the director cadre, these are things they will ask us. They may ask you, relate the team's agenda, how it affects your work, or how your work or your department is contributing to the team's agenda. They may ask you, what is teams for? What is the team's agenda for? How can you relate it to your work? So teams means traffic management and transportation, health and environment, education and technology, making Lagos State a 21st century economy, entertainment and tourism, as well as security and governance. That is the full meaning of teams. This is the first policy trust agenda of Mr. Governor in his first term. And it is expected that every public officer in Lagos State must be able to know the team's agenda. You must be able to relate the team's agenda to your present work, to your present schedule. Also, you should be able to convince anybody that asks you a question, how is your work contributing to achieve the team's agenda of Mr. Governor? So also, we should be able to relate the team's agenda to the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, which every nation wants to achieve. So we have been able to look at the team's agenda. We have been able to look at the team's agenda and look at the Sustainable Development Goal and see how Lagos fits into it, how Lagos tries to contribute into the Sustainable Development Goal. So let's look at the first pillar under the team's agenda, not the second term, the first term. Traffic management and transportation contribute to Sustainable Development Goal 9, 10, 11, and 17. Because we don't have much time, I won't be able to go around explaining each one of it. Health and environment contribute to 3, 6, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Education and technology contribute to what? 4, 9, 10, 11, 16, 17. So if they ask you, what do you think some of the projects, what do you think some of the initiatives under the team's agenda has created or has contributed to the SDG? I'll talk about education. 2 years ago, the state government did, we had a pilot school where we use container to pilot a school. The school is self-sustaining. It has solar, it has most of the board are magnetic board. The students don't have to use chalkboard. So you can see that we are using technology to improve what? Education. We are using technology to improve what? Education. Making Lagos a 21st century city. We are redeveloping and redesigning the city to make the city resilient to climate change, to make the city resilient to crime. So that's why you see that the state government continuously give vehicles to task force, to rapid response corps, to the police, because a safe city is a city that economy will grow. If a city is safe, people, business, commerce will grow. So making Lagos a 21st century city also contributes to poverty reduction. If people can do business, if people can relate well, if commerce grow, there will be poverty reduction. There's zero hunger. So if there's poverty reduction, there will be zero hunger. So, and Lagos, we have gender equality. There's gender equality in Lagos. So 9 to 8 to 9 to 11. Entertainment and tourism. Everybody knows Lagos for that. Lagos for show. So if we are Lagos for show, we don't want to just be Lagos for show alone. Every major event that has to do with entertainment, we want to host it in Lagos. When you host, people often ask, why do City rush to host the World Cup? Why do City rush to host the Olympic? Yes, because if you host the World Cup, if you host the Olympic, it's a form of tourist attraction. Business will grow, investment will grow, development will grow. So, and that's what Lagos also, in the team's agenda, entertainment and tourism. We want to entertain people, and when we entertain people, we know people will come in. Tourist attraction will be. And if tourist attraction wants to be, you want to clean your city. You want to make your city better. So also, under entertainment and tourism, it contributes to 1, 3, 8, 16, 9, 11, and 17. The last one, security and governance. Like I've said it, you can see some of the activities, some of the programs, some of the initiatives of Mr. Governor, buying vehicles, supplying vehicles to the security agency, paying insurance if we lost any of the police officer, prompt payment to their wives, prompt payment to their children, to encourage the living ones that, yes, the government will not leave you. So security and governance. If a state is fully secured, I heard in one of the press release, was it last year, when the commissioner of police came out and said Lagos has not witnessed robbery as we used to be while we were growing up. I know that we know what Shina Rambo did in Lagos. We know what Shina Rambo did in Lagos. We have not had bank robbery in Lagos in the last 2 years. We've not had major bank robbery in Lagos in the last 2 years. And we all know what really happened. I can recollect there was one that I had. I was fortunate to why would I say fortunate? Because immediately I left the bank in VGC was when they came to rob the first bank in VGC. We were just hearing guns. So Lagos has not witnessed that in few years because we support the police. That's why we don't have a state police. The state government support the police by giving them necessary buy guns, buy things for them, and also give them special allowance. So as a management staff, audio, please. Hello, are you sure? Somebody is saying audio. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So please, Mr. Ashak, take your hand, please. Thank you. So as a management staff, you should be able to relate the team's agenda to your work. How your work, your department, your ministry is contributing to the team's agenda of Mr. Governor. And how also, we are also using the team's agenda to contribute to sustainable development goal. So that is one. So after the team's agenda, the second term of Mr. Governor, where we are now, he decided to add 3 other components to it. We call it Teams Plus. So the Teams agenda is still there, but he decided to add 3 more to it, calling it Teams Plus. So the Teams is still there: traffic management and transportation, health and environment, education and technology, making Lagos a 21st century economy, entertainment and tourism, security and governance. Now, he decided to add social inclusion, gender equality, and youth development. Social inclusion, gender equality, and youth development. We all know what happened during the EndSARS issue in Lagos State, and we cannot jettison the young generation. We cannot jettison the young generation. That is why youth development and social inclusion became one key thing that Mr. Governor decided to put in his team agenda. So anything we are doing in our agency, we are doing in the state now, what is the contribution of the youth in our policy development, in our plans, in our program? What is the social inclusion? There's different social strata in the state. How are we carrying them along in governance? So you now see that before the state government comes out with the budget, last year, we started the citizen dialogue for the budget preparation around October, where the state government takes the budget preparation to the community. So we are not using the top approach now. We are using the bottom approach. The state government will be constructing. These are plans, what we have plans in the budget for Badagry division. So we go to Badagry division, the state government will call a stakeholder, and everybody will make contribution. We are doing road from Iyafin to Agbara. We are doing road from Badagry to Seme. How many houses? How is it going to affect people? How is it going to? So because of the social inclusion, how are we looking at the disabled? How are we looking at the aged people? How are we looking at the vulnerable people? So that is the thing that has been added into the team's agenda, making it the Teams Plus agenda. So youth development, like I said, youth development is key. Youth development is key. Nigerian population, 65% of Nigerian population are categorized as the youth bracket. And everybody knows when you are young, you are restless, you want to explore, you want to do things fast. So let's channel their energy into better things. So if you want to channel their energy into better things, let's have them into governance. That's why we have youth parliament now. There's youth parliament. We had the one-day governor over the years. Now we are getting contribution from the youth. Lagos State government wants to do this. What's this? The percentage of grants in programs now, we have special percentage for youth now because of the last experience the state had. So that's just it. Also, it's a document we, each and every one of us, have to go and read. It's a document, the Lagos State Developmental Plan is a document anybody that immediately you are in level 12 above, you need to get your hands on that document and read. You need to get your hands on that document and read, because the framework for the development of the state up to 2050, it's already laid down there. The framework for development, for water, for agriculture, for road, for housing, for education is there. So that's where you have most governors who come in and key their agenda into it. Presently, the agenda of Mr. Governor has some goals and also have some key performance indicator that they use to measure ministries and agency. So what are things that has been done by the past administration, by the present administration, and what are things he expects to do? So now, like I said, youth empowerment is one of the key things. So this is some of the promise in the year 2024 budget. The government is going to build 9 mini stadia again. We are going to have a film editing, acting, and scripts. There's a program with Lagos State government with Mo Abdu now, where we train, content creation, film production is one thing that is growing in the world. A YouTube person, a TikTok person makes millions of naira. Bloggers makes millions of naira. Content creator makes millions of naira. So why can't we encourage the youth, train them properly so that they can? So Lagos State government is training a lot of young people in that aspect. The Okpebi League Bridge is going on. Probably it's going to be commissioned before the end of this year. That's a project that has been on for over 20 years. The Mercy Children Hospital is also one that's been there. It's going to be finished today. A 500-bed mental health hospital, Igbobi, which is the one by the federal government, it's less. We now have a lot of mental cases issues in Nigeria. We have people who fall into depression. So, and they are human beings. Let's take care of them. So the state government is going to have a 500-bed mental hospital. Lekki Airport. Yes, a lot of people ask, why do Lagos State government wants to have another airport in Lekki? Yes, you want to have another airport in Lekki. If it's not even going to be a commercial passenger airport, we are going to have a cargo airport. Lekki Free Trade Zone in the next 5 years is going to be the hotspot of manufacturing and business in Nigeria. So if we don't want traffic, if you don't want things, people want to move their products out of the free trade zone. So if we have an airport there, there'll be commercial activity. So for people who are saying, why do we want to have an airport there, it's something. So also the food security. Yes, Lagos, we are not an agrarian state. We are not more into agriculture. That's what people think. But now, Lagos State government, we are investing in agriculture. We're having food and logistic ops. You go to my 12, and you wonder the amount of food that will waste. Food waste is one of the major problems in Nigeria and in Lagos. So if we have food waste, as a good government, we should do something whereby, so the state government is having a cold room, we are having an agricultural hub whereby people can store their food and we will reduce food wastage. We are also developing the Mushin hub. People have been testifying. It is direct. The farmer comes, bring their products in fresh, and you go there and you buy. These are some of the key administration things that Mr. Governor is doing. This year, we are going to have the groundbreaking ceremony of the 4th Mainland Bridge. We are going to have the groundbreaking ceremony of the 4th Mainland Bridge. And you see, it's going to create over 10,000 jobs. And apart from that, you can move from Lekki to Ikorodu within an hour. So this is part of. So the second phase of the Blue Rain will move from Maitu to Okuko. It will be completed this year. On the 29th, Mr. President will be in the country to inaugurate the Red Line. So these are the major activities that has been lined up under the team's agenda. So that is the first part of the lecture. So all questions will come because I know Mr. Dr. Sojino has joined us now. Let's quickly run up the order so that we can take him after this. So all questions related, we'll take them together. So like I said, Communication is one of the most important things in public service. Communication is one of the most important things in public service. And each officer must familiarize itself with how we communicate in service. What form of communication do we have in service? And how do you relate with this? So at the end of this lecture, we should be able to understand the forms of communication. Basically, this lecture is just to give us an overview of what an ESCO memo is. Most of us have been hearing ESCO memo. What do they do in ESCO? ESCO memo, ESCO memo. I've not seen an ESCO memo before. How do you write an ESCO memo? Is it only a director? Is it only PS that write an ESCO memo? No, anybody can write an ESCO memo. Immediately you have the templates. You have it's not just for you to put in your figures and data there. So communication in the civil service have two channels. We have written channels and we have oral channels. And people often said, oral channels. Yes, sometimes oral directives are liable in civil service. Oral directives are liable in civil service. If there's an announcement on the radio that all civil servants should resume to work on Sunday, you now say, because you are not, it's not given to you in letter, you will not go. You get a query. You get a query. Oral channels are a form of communication in the civil service. So let's look at the written channel. The written channels include memorandum, which most of us call a memo. So memorandum is one of the form of the written channels where we communicate in the civil service. A memorandum is a short statement, report, or note used daily in the civil service. The next one is minutes. We're all familiar with that. Minutes are views, opinion, advice, information, or directive expressed in writing during the course of the day. Please come up with a minute on this. Write a minute on this. Or there's a brief and they ask you to come up with the minutes. There's also what we call reports. Reports are what most of us that are professionals are familiar with. Reports are official written account of any matter which are usually written after analysis or investigation have been concluded on the subject matter. So this one, we are all familiar with it as professional. There's a public complaint, there's an investigation, and we have to turn in the reports. Or there's a panel of inquiry, somebody committed an offense and they set up a committee. So we have to we have to come up with a report for the PS to make judgment on it, or for other senior officers to. So there's report. There's also press release. These are form of communication these are form of written communication in service. A press release, this is a method used by a government or department to inform the public about the state of affairs or other urgent matter. Okay, Ebola, let's say we have somebody enter into Lagos today and it's suspected that the person has Ebola, and we heard that he lodged in one hotel and is moving around. If we cannot trace the person and we want to reduce the scourge of Ebola, the governor can issue a press release. They can issue a press release. They can issue a press release to inform the public that there's somebody going around and the person is likely to infect others. So a press release is usually the written form where you use to inform the public. There's a press conference. So there's a difference between a press release and a press conference. A press conference is when you call the press and the public officer, whether the commissioner, the governor, or a director or a GM of an agency, face the press and give out information, whether the information is written or oral, and then the press asks question. So we have the press conference. Another one is executive order. Executive order is also a form of written communication in service. Executive order, these are directive issues by the president or the governor directly or indirectly. It may be in the president has issued an executive order. It may not be the president that will say it. It may be a special advisor or the ministers, but an executive order is one executive order that each and every one of us is familiar with is no more subsidy. The president was just talking and just gave an executive order, no more subsidy. Yes, it's something that is oral, but he immediately he mentioned the statement. The whole country becomes into panic. It's an executive order. So he has said it. So the next thing is all his cabinet member, everybody around him, have to make sure that that thing works. So that's an example of an executive order, or something is terrorizing the country, and the president said, "Okay, IG, I need this person captured within 24 hours." That's an executive order. It can either be issued by the president or the governor. Gazette is also a form of official communication. These are official government publications aimed to inform the public about government decision. Most of the appointments, most issues are often found in official gazettes. Also, letters. Letters are also form of communication in the service, whereby people write letters to each other. The president can write a letter to the National Assembly, or Mr. Governor writes to the civil servant, or writes to the public. Pamphlets is another form of written communication. Pamphlets are printed publication. They are fast and they are cheap. So if government wants to communicate an issue, like example, the styrofoam ban, we just produce pamphlets and distribute it. It's to help us to communicate information. Handbooks. These are short reference books that contain information on particular subject. The civil service handbook, the service order, all these are form of written communication in service. Bulletin board. Yeah, bulletin boards. These are phasing out now because we have WhatsApp, we have other social media that has been integrated into official communication in service. Usually we have bulletin boards whereby they'll place information on the board. That time, if you want to have promotion exam, they'll just place your sitting position. They'll place your exam number and everything on the board. Just say it's not a form of communication. Wait for them to come and write you your exam. You have to go to the board and get your number, get your sitting position. That's a form of communication in service. Also, circulars. These are short written messages intended for wide circulation. Most of us have seen different circulars. This our exam, they have to circularize it to us. Our interview date, they will circularize it. So those are form of written communication in service. Newsletter. Yeah, newsletter. Newsletter usually contain information that are of interest to a particular group in service. Newsletter for financial officer, newsletter for engineers, newsletter for this. So that's the form of written communication. Oral communication, oral channels, meetings, seminars, telephone discussions, these are oral channels. So information may be, the PS may comes to a meeting and roll out a directives. It's a form of communication. You don't say because it's not written to you or you don't have it in file. We have to, you go for seminars, you go for things, information are passed there, it is accepted in the civil service. Telephone discussions, we can also be given official directive via telephone discussions from our principals, from people above us. It's an official form of communication. Now, social media has also been added into it. Social media has also been added into it. Now we have WhatsApp group, an official communication are sent on WhatsApp group. You have to take it. Twitter, Instagram handles, people can, civil servant can be communicated to via any of the social media handle. It is now accepted as a form of communication in the civil service. So now let's look at memorandum, which we all call memo. Memorandum, which we all call memo. So there are different types of memo that we have. Internal memo, please come up with a memo on this subject, on this. But today, the general view of the memo I'm discussing is to focus on the executive memo, which we call ESCO memo. So what is a memo? What is a memo, or what is memorandum? So memorandum is derived from a Latin word, memori. I'm not a Latin, so I'm an Ijebu man. If I don't call it right, don't blame me. Which means to remember or to bring to mind. That is what memorandum is all about. The Chambers 20th Century Dictionary defines memorandum as something to be remembered or to note to assist in the memory or summary of a state of a question. So basically, a memo is to bring up something that you can remember or you can refer to. That's what we call a memo. So memo are used both in public and private organization. It's not only in the civil service that you use memo. Memo are both, you can use it in public service and you can also use it in private side. Means a note, a minute, as well as form of letters in a written document. That is what we call a memo. So why do you bring up a memo? Why do you bring up a memo? Normally, most memo in government are classified. Most memo in government are classified or specialized information. Most memo are classified or specialized information. But now you see the president will give an approval or something will be sent to the president. The next thing you see it on Twitter. You see it on social media. So most memo are not classified again because you see civil servants scanning or taking picture of official documents and put it on their phone. And while they put their phone down, people take it and spread it. So the presentation of memo involve data, facts, idea that will help government on a particular subject. That is why you come up with a memo. And before you come up with a memo, there are some things your organization or you want to aim at. What is the motivating factor behind the memo? What is the current development or state of art on the issue of the interest? Let me put one that is general to all of us now. Ban on styrofoam. Ban on styrofoam. If you want to come up, they ask you to come up with a memo on the need to ban styrofoam in Lagos State. What are the things you look out for before you write that memo? What are the things you look out for before you write that memo? It's a policy. Government want to come up with a policy to ban styrofoam in Lagos State. And you are the officer that will come up with a memo. So before you come up with an ESCO memo, you must first come up with a submission. You must first come up with a submission. And before you come up with a submission, what are you going to do? You are going to get your information right. You are going to do analytical discussion of the problem and the issue at stake. What are the policy options? What are the recommendations before you say, okay, I will write the submission? Because when you write the submission to the PS, you want to put facts, you want to put figure, you want to put the state of affairs. The PS will consider it, send it to the commissioner. When the commissioner look at it, they send it to the governor. When the governor look at it and say, oh, this is good, the governor will now ask that ministry or agency or department to do what? To come up with an executive memo that will be presented before the executive council. So you can't see that, you can't just come up with an ESCO memo. No, you can't just come up with an ESCO memo. There will have been a submission, there will have been a report or issues that will have been addressed to Mr. Governor, and he look at it, okay, there's need for ESCO consideration. You now give an approval for you to come up with an ESCO memo. So when you come up with the ESCO memo, in conjunction with the cabinet office, your ministry or agency will be slated and you do the memo presentation. So a sound research into the subject, the problem and situation at stake is something that you must consider when you are writing the submission. Because it is the key information in the submission that will help you to write the memo. If you don't have the information, you can't just go straight and start writing the memo. Data collection and analysis. the policy initiation and analysis as necessary input for decision making at government level. What is the decision? What is the policy initiation you want? What is the analysis behind it that you want the ESCO to ratify? So each ministry is everybody, whether Ministry of Energy, whether Ministry of Environment, whether Ministry of Physical Planning, as government, ministry are to come up with policies. So you initiate policy based on your activities. Example, proliferation of building collapse. Building collapse has been one of the major issues we have in the state. So physical planning may carry out a study or carry out and say, okay, one of the key issues why we are having building collapse is lack of artisanal knowledge. Artisans don't have basic knowledge. So Lagos State government wants to, we are coming up with a policy whereby we want to have a partnership with UK government, we want to have partnership with Republic of Benin. Why is it that it's Republic of Benin? All the bricklayers, the tiler, the best people are coming from Republic of Benin. Let's go and look at their model and use it so that we reduce building collapse. If you want to build a house now, you want the house to be fine, to be straight, you have to go and look for a bricklayer in Republic of Benin. You don't want to get anybody from Shaki again. While we are growing up, it is people from Shaki that we know that are normally the best builder in Southwest Nigeria. But why are the Shaki people not doing that again? Why have we decided to go to Republic of Benin? So you want to initiate that policy, but there must be something, there must be an objective, there must be an achievement, something you want to gain at the end of the day before you write the memo. So what is an ESCO memo? Simply, ESCO memo, executive memo. Executive memo. In terms of state government, it's called State Executive Council. In terms of the federal government, it's called Federal Executive Council. So a memo can be written in the state. It can also be written in the federal government. It's the highest policy organ of government that comprises the governor, the deputy governor, and appointed commissioner and special advisor of cabinet level. Not all special advisor are cabinet rank. Some are just special advisor. So memo is a short form of memorandum. So what is the purpose of an ESCO memo? What is the purpose of an ESCO memo? You initiate an ESCO memo for a policy, whether you want to amend it or you want to implement it. Whether you want to initiate it to amend or to implement. Let's say, like I made mention, you come up with a memo for the ban on styrofoam. There's never been a ban on styrofoam. So if that's a memo we initiate. You want to amend something. Okay, in Lagos State, everybody is using septic tank. They are using septic tank. But we have found out that the state has gone beyond that. What climate change is increasing the groundwater level, and septic tank is not suitable for Lagos again. So we are putting up a memo to start using biodigester in Lagos. We are putting up a memo for streets to have sewage treatment plant. So instead of one house having septic tank, we are coming up with a memo to encourage 5 buildings to come together and have a mini sewage treatment plant. Because we want to amend the way we store sewage in the state. Or you want to implement a policy. There's been a policy that we have always been hearing. Don't cross bridge in Lagos State. Don't cross bridge in Lagos State. But we don't have a real policy on what we want to do. So we can come up with a memo to the State Executive Council on road crossing in Lagos State, a policy, having a real policy document on action plans and program of how you should not cross this thing. We can also use an ESCO memo to initiate legislation concerning the state. Legislation concerning the state. Environmental impact assessment, environmental audit. People felt only environmental impact assessment is only for industries. It's only for projects that are large. However, there are some projects that are minimal, but they have serious environmental consequence. We are losing our wetland in Lagos at a very alarming rate. We are losing our wetland at a very alarming rate. We are losing our water body at a very alarming rate. People just reclaim. Yes, reclamation is good. But how do you reclaim? What are the environmental considerations we want to put? So we may come up with a law to enshrine environmental impact assessment. We can also initiate an ESCO memo to inform government about issue or set of issues in the states. Drug abuse, out of school children. So these are things that an ESCO memo can. We can also use an ESCO memo to propose or recommend a course of action. While we are doing our work, taking water sample along lagoons in Lagos State, we found out that their BOD level, the organic components in the water body in Lagos State is becoming high. And we found out that this organic is because people are running their sewage directly into the Lagos Lagoon, into all the water bodies in the state. It's a study that it's because of the water quality monitoring that we are doing, and we find it, and we need to stop it. So we can come up with a submission that the governor will ask us to come up with an ESCO memo. So an ESCO memo originates from a submission made by an MDA. So whether a ministry or department of an agency to the government. So the government, you can't just write, say you stand up in your office and say, I want to write an ESCO memo. No, you must have come up with a submission. The submission will have gone to Mr. Governor. Mr. Governor will have approved the submission, look at it and say, okay, no, I will not be the only one that will look at this, come up with an ESCO memo that for the consideration of the ESCO. So what does an ESCO memo typically contain? So when you look at an ESCO memo, what information do you expect to see in an ESCO memo? We've passed our time. So the first one is introduction. The second one is background or existing state of affairs. So like I will also go back to the use of styrofoam. So in the introduction, don't think everybody knows about styrofoam. Yes, everybody knows what styrofoam is, but do they really know the main component, the main information surrounding it that will justify the ban? So in your introduction, you want to. The background, styrofoam, how does it come about? How do they use it? Yes, people use styrofoam, but the styrofoam that we are talking about is in food packaging. We are not banning styrofoam use. They use styrofoam in chair making, in everything. No, we are not after that. We are after styrofoam in food production, in food packaging, because we found out that, yes, the food package automatically is one use, they throw it away. So what is the issue in controversy? Yes, styrofoam causes drainage blockage. It has been suspected as one of the precursors, one of the components in it is one of the precursors for cancer. So what is the nature of the proposal? What are we proposing? Pure ban, reduction, stop the selling. So your ESCO memo must be able. And what is the methodology you want to use? You want to use 2 days for campaign, 1 month for phase out, after that enforcement. And if there are procurement method or cost implication that will attach to that memo, to that action, you need to put it. Then you need to put your prayer. We pray that the State Executive Council approve Ministry of Environment action for us to ban the use of styrofoam in food preservation, serving in the state because of this. Then the initial of the ESCO memo, it is of the ESCO member, it is only the Honorable Commissioner. You can't say yes because you are the PS or you are the director that the department write the submission. You are the one that is going to initiate it. No, and they don't write full name. Like Tokunbo Wahab is the Honorable Commissioner. So it is just in his initial that will put there. The designation of the presenter. You know, sometimes, yes, it may not be the Honorable Commissioner that will present the ESCO memo. Maybe the most senior director or the PS. And the initial of the
what is shaking him?
The Oluwanu, you are disturbing also. The cover page of the ESCO memo, it's normally like this. The document is the property of Lagos State. So like we said, ESCO memo are always secret. Don't go and say because you have advantage to see ESCO memo in the file, you scan it and you take it home and your family sees it and start putting it on social media. It's a treasonable offense. You are leaking government documents. So the documents, it has a back cover, normally has a code. The title of the memo, ban on styrofoam in Lagos State, I just use this as example. Like I've said also, that's introduction, background. So basically, that's what an ESCO memo is all about. Our time is fast spent. Realizing that the Executive Council is for a crucial policy decision making, you should ensure that the ESCO memo has clarity. It expresses there's no ambiguity. The information you put in paragraph 1 is conflicting with the paragraph 2. And these are people that have limited time. You must be factual. Don't put information that is not credible in ESCO memo, because immediately the ESCO pass it and they find out that the information you put there is something that's gross misconduct. You'll be charged because you are misleading the state. Be meticulous and take time to read the ESCO memo very well before you do what you submit it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've tried for today. If there's any question that I think I can take, we can. Yeah, the floor is open. Dr. Sojinu is waiting for us for the second lecture. So if you have any question or any observation, or if you have any other senior director that is available that want to help to add, I always have Oga at the top above me. So if any of my Oga at the top is in the room to help to make contribution, the floor is open. Thank you all. Yeah, we'll send the slide immediately after the lecture. The slide will be available. So if there's no question by 5:10, Dr. Sojinu will come in for his own lecture. I think my Oga, are you available, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Oga, my Oga at the top. Welcome, sir.
Who is your God? Which top is that?
My God at the top. The person that I call Oga at the top is not even himself Oga at the top now.
Just to add to the ESCO memo stuff, that some time ago, a circular was issued with respect to the font type you can use and the font size you can use in preparing an ESCO memo. If my memory is not failing me, I think it's Times New Roman, and I think the font size is 14. Just to add that to fantastic delivery you just made now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I think I'll look for that. Yes, it gives specification on the types of fonts you can use, the size and everything. So thank you. That's all from me. Dr. Sojinu will continue with the class. Have a nice evening, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you.
That's in place.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Lasisi. That was a professorial delivery, and I think you deserve a lot of accolades for a job well done.
Thank you, my Oga at the top.
I'm trying to share my slide, and I think I should go to slideshow. Okay. Just let me know if you can see my slides.
You can see it, sir. Clearly, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's very clear, sir. Very
clear. I'm just going to be talking on development and implementation of public policies. I spoke about it yesterday, but unfortunately, I couldn't present any slide. I have about 11 or so slides, if I'm not mistaken, and I will speak to the slides as fast as I can, so that we can all be done with this and rest and get ready for tomorrow's work. Like Mr. Lasisi said, one of our major responsibility as civil servants, particularly those of us who may find ourselves at the management level cadre, is to come up with public policies. That's our job. Our job is to come up with public policies if you are within the ministry. And if you find yourself in the agencies, of course, your key responsibility is to implement public policy. And so basically that's what we're going to be looking at. I tried to explain what a public policy is yesterday, and I said it's just a course of action or guidelines or guiding principles that government has adopted to address some existing social problems. Government has adopted a set of actions that they intend to implement to be able to address some issues, some societal issues. And I gave an example. For instance, if we are having the issue of styrofoam that we have mentioned, it's one policy statement that government has made. And I explained that the fact that we are spending billions of naira year in, year out just to clear drains, And these drains are being silted with not just sand, but with a lot of styrofoam and single-use plastics. And some people are smiling to the bank, producing styrofoam. Some people are smiling to the bank, distributing styrofoam. Some people are smiling to the bank, using styrofoams for food packaging and all the rest, while government is spending taxpayers' money to clear the mess. And so government cannot continue to do that. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any form of economic sense. And that is why the decision to ban styrofoam is just one step in a lot of steps that will still come. Single-use plastic will still go. But let's start with styrofoams first, because we must begin to now put our money where our mouth is. We must begin to put resources where they are more needed. We can use these billions of naira to do other things, to fund hospitals, to have drugs, to make sure that schools are well funded and all the rest. So that is why government has to take the action that was taken. So that kind of action is a public policy. It is actually made to address public problems, social issues, societal issues. So that is what a public policy is all about. And you can have three major types of public policy. Number one, it could be regulatory. A public policy could be regulatory. You can be using it to regulate the actions of some people. For instance, you can say, okay, industries in Lagos, before you discharge your wastewater or your effluents into the Lagos environment, it must be treated to meet LASEPA standard for wastewater. That is a regulatory policy, and you can enforce it. So any industry that violates that policy, of course, can face sanctions. So that is a regulatory policy. It is regulating the activities or actions of some individuals. Then you can have a restrictive policy, a policy that is restricting certain actions or certain people from carrying out certain actions. For instance, we said you can no longer ride Okada, motorbikes on certain streets in Lagos, on bridges and certain roads within certain local governments in Lagos State. That's a restrictive policy. Another restrictive policy you may have experienced is the one that we had during the COVID-19 pandemic, where government says you cannot go out.
I think his network from his side. Let's give him a little time.
Sorry, I'm back. Actually
Okay.
using the network of my phone, and some enemies of progress are calling me on my phone. So can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
So let me reshare my slide. It's some enemies of progress.
Okay.
What do I do now? Do I have to leave the meeting and come in again? Okay. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. So you can have a facilitating policy, a policy that is meant to facilitate some actions. For instance, the Lagos State Plastic Waste Management Policy is a facilitating policy meant to facilitate efficient management of plastic waste in Lagos. That is a facilitating policy, helping us, clearly stating actions that parties should take, individuals will expect to take to ensure you have efficient management of plastic waste in the state. Okay, so let's look at fundamentals of public policies, basic things that a public policy, it will involve. The first one is problem identification. What exactly are the issues that we want to address? What is the problem we want to solve? Which societal problem are we trying to solve? That is the first step. So when you give this, when you take the example of the plastic waste management policy, the impact of plastic waste on our environment, we want to reduce it. So we want to see that plastic waste don't constitute a problem again in our environment. And so that is the problem we've identified. We identified the fact that plastic waste has become a major environmental issue. Apart from blocking our drainages, they have health implications because some of these plastics find their way into our water bodies. And of course, fishes and other aquatic organisms get to eat them up as microplastics. And then we will think that we have seen fresh fish. This is fresh tilapia from Epe. And then we go and buy it. This tilapia has taken in so many microplastics and it's already in the system, in the tissues. And then we eat it. Sometimes we don't even cook them very well. We say, don't let it be too cooked. And then you are eating plastics into your system, and you are eating carcinogenic materials into your system. So that is the way, that is the challenge. So that's the problem we have found, and that's the problem we wanted to solve. So the next thing was to set out goals we want to achieve. What do we want to achieve with this policy? We want a 20% reduction between now and 2030. We want 50% reduction. We want plastic waste to be a thing of the past by 2050 and all the rest. So these, of course, are some of the goals we can set. And then, of course, the policy document will now have specific policy actions or policy statements. Mr. A must not do this again. Mr. B must begin to do this. So these are steps. These are what basically are fundamentals of a public policy. So let's look at policy formulation processes or steps. The very first step is problem identification, which we have talked about. And then we do a need assessment. What type of policy do we need? What actions do we need to take? And so when we have done with need assessment, we set the goals. Item number 3 is policy drafting. So that L is a typographical error. So item number 3 is the drafting stage, and this is very important. The policy drafting stage involves a few things. Number 1, it involves a robust research on the subject matter. You need to do a lot of research, do a lot of study on the subject matter you are trying to address. You need to check what has happened in other climes, particularly similar environments like ours. How are they managing their plastic, for instance, in India? How are they managing their plastics in Ghana? And so you are looking at what other, you are looking at best practices in other parts of the world. And you're looking at what actions they took. And so you can even look at if there are existing plastic waste management policies anywhere else. You can look at it, you can review it, and also look at what you can take out of it. Now, in the process of policy drafting, you also need to engage stakeholders. So stakeholders engagement or consultation is very key. You need to engage people that are likely to be affected by the policy. You need to engage institutions. You need to engage MDAs that may have a role to play in the policy. You need to engage subject matter experts, people who have expertise in the subject matter that you are trying to, in the area that you are trying to draft a policy for. And then so that all these efforts now come up, culminate in you now having a draft policy. And then that draft policy must be ratified. Now, because this is a public policy, in the state level, it has to be taken to the ESCO. The ESCO need to look at it, and the ESCO need to ratify and sign off on it before you can disclose it. And so you have a ratification, policy ratification, and then disclosure. Because there is no, it does not make any sense having a policy that is not known to the public. It does not make any sense. So if there is a policy on a subject matter, it must be disclosed to the public so the public would know the position that government has taken on such a matter. And so public policy ratification and disclosure is very key. Now, what makes up a good public policy? How do I look at a public policy and say this is good? Number 1 is effectiveness. Effectiveness. And that is why when you are reviewing a public policy, these are some of the things you look out for. Is it effective? Is the policy achieving the intended goals? Is it producing the desired outcomes? Let me ask you, is the ban on Okada riding in some parts of the state producing the expected goal, the intended goal? Is it producing the intended outcomes? The answer is yes. Data from hospitals and Ministry of Health is revealing that with the ban in some areas, casualty rate has reduced. The number of people who are losing their limbs and losing their hands has reduced as a result of ban on the use of motorbikes in some areas. And so these are some of the indicators to see whether the policy is effective. Over time, we will begin to see whether the ban on styrofoam is effective. By the time we begin to see, results, we begin to see what is happening with our drainage channels, can now be able to measure the effectiveness of that policy. Number two is cost effectiveness. If for every policy we need to look at, we need to match benefits with costs. What do we stand to gain from this policy? Not just in monetary value, but in socio-economic value to the people. Are we preserving lives? Are we improving the quality of life of people, of Lagosians? Are people getting better services? Is their lifespan increasing? So we look at the benefit vis-a-vis the cost with respect to what we probably are losing for having that policy, or what people will have lost for having that policy. And wherever you see the benefits outweighing the cost, that is a good policy, because it is important for us to do cost benefit analysis of our policies. Another yardstick is equity. Public policies must be fair and just. It must ensure that both benefits and burdens are distributed equally. So you must not have a policy that favors only the rich, and then it gives benefits to the rich and put the burden on the poor. That kind of policy is not an equitable policy, and it's not a good public policy. We had a situation when we had the change, when we were trying to redesign the Naira. That was a major public policy. And we're redesigning the Naira. And at that time, we saw that even the rich, well, some class of rich men also were bearing the burden. But some super class of rich men were having access to the money. They were having access to the money while people are practically dying to get the Naira. That is not an equitable policy. We saw on social media people spending, these notes, these new notes, redesigned notes in its bundles. Meanwhile, Nigerians are queuing and notes. That policy is not a good public policy. It didn't spread the benefits and the burden, equally. Another yardstick for measuring a good public policy is transparency. Well, public policies must be developed, implemented, and evaluated in a transparent manner with clear information available to the public. We must not conceal information. We must make sure that the public have clear information. For instance, the ban on styrofoam, we must release to the members of the public from time to time what government is doing with respect to this ban, how much time they have, when will enforcement take place, how will enforcement, take place, how many more days they have, and all the rest. These are features of a good public policy, and it must be transparent. One of the major public policy we have in Nigeria that is a major issue is the policy on subsidy removal. As we speak today, can that person take care of his family or her family? As we speak today, not too many of us know how much we pay on subsidy. And there have been arguments about whether there is actually subsidy, or whether subsidy is a fraud, and all the rest. We were told that subsidy has been removed, but we are also told now that subsidy is being paid underground. So that policy is shrouded in a lot of secrecy. There is no transparency at all. That is not a good public policy. Number 4 is adaptability. Public policies must be flexible to adapt to changing circumstances and new information. The world itself is dynamic. Life is not static. So if a policy may be fantastic yesterday and may not be fantastic today because of changing circumstances. So public policies must have the capacity to adapt to changing situations. Particularly policies on environmental management. I've said time and time again that environmental management is always evolving and dynamic. And so our policies must also, evolve and be dynamic as the system is dynamic. There used to be a time when enforcement is the only language that we know in environmental management. where we have to bring out the stick. But the world is evolving from enforcement more to advocacy and education, where global practices are now looking at people now doing voluntary compliance. And our policies must also begin to embrace what is evolving. That is why public policies must have adaptability. A good public policy must involve inputs from stakeholders. Public policies must not be the one that is just imposed on the people. The people who are likely to be affected by the public policy must make input into it. Citizens must be consulted. Subject matter experts must be consulted. Those who are likely to be affected must be consulted so that they can have input. And one of the benefits of stakeholders' engagement in policy formulation is that when people make input into it, they own the policy. They no longer see it as their team. They see it as our team. That is why engagement is important. And people can easily comply because they were part of the process of formulating the policy. And that is why a good public policy must have very sound stakeholder engagement process. Sustainability. Policies should promote long-term sustainability, taking into account environmental and social and economic factors. Policies must look at sustainability. And that is, it is important. A lot of people have either run bankrupt or gone out of business because of policy somersault. A lot of government policy somersault. Some businesses are affected by government policy somersault. Government says this is possible today, by tomorrow, government says this is no longer acceptable, and people have invested money into that area, and then they have to throw it out. Their investment goes into the drain. Then public policies should be based on evidence, facts and figures. It should be evidence-based. We should be able to produce facts and figures. We must be able to do thorough analysis of the facts and the figures before we arrive at our policies. We don't just form policies based on what we think. It must be based on what we know of a fact that is the true state of affairs. We can't continue to have policies on assumptions or presumptions. Policies must be research-based. They must be based on facts and figures. And then lastly, policies must have low risk, because there is no policy that does not have unintended effects. But we must ensure that the unintended impacts of those policies are low. In pharmacology, they will tell you that drugs have two effects. They have the main effects, the reason why you are using the drug, and they have side effects, which is not what you want, but it has side effects. The same way, sometimes public policies also have those two effects. The main benefits you want to achieve, that is one effect, the main effect, and then there are some unintended effects that may come as a result of public policy. For instance, ban of styrofoam, some people are likely going to lose their businesses. That is not government intention, but it will happen. That is an unintended effect. Some people are likely going to lose their businesses. Those who distribute styrofoam may have to look for something else to do. That is not the intention of government, but that will happen. When we ban Okada riding, we did not intend that people should lose their source of livelihood, but some people lost their source of livelihood. Some families could not feed themselves for some time. It wasn't government's intention, but it has to happen. So for every public policy, there are unintended risks and impacts that come from it, but it must be low. So a good public policy must have very low unintended risk. Those are fundamentals of good public policy. Let me quickly jump to the major policy document I spoke about yesterday. For those who are around, I spoke about the Lagos State Development Plan 2052. It is a 30-year development plan. The document is a 30-year development plan for Lagos from 2022 to 2052. It has several, it's broken into several terms, what we call, the low-hanging fruits, that you can immediately achieve. That one is between 2022 and 2023. Those ones are things you can achieve immediately. They call them immediate terms. And then it has what we call the near term that run from 2023 to 2030. And these are the initiatives we are expected to be implementing now. And then you have the one that run from 2030 to 2052. And so it is a 30-year development plan. It has 4 major pillars and has 447 initiatives. It has 4 major pillars and 447 initiatives. Those initiatives are broken into 2 major areas: expenditure initiatives, initiatives that will involve the use of money. You have to spend money. And then there are revenue initiatives, initiatives that are likely going to bring revenue to government. So these are usually the 2 major, ways you can categorize those initiatives. And then there are 4 major pillars, like I told you, of this development plan. Pillar number 1 is thriving economy. Lagos want to have a thriving economy where there will be a lot of jobs and investments that will continue to support the growth of the economy. Under this pillar, there are 162 initiatives. 162 initiatives. The second pillar is to have a human-centric city. A human-centric city, a city that supports its own people. So Lagos want to have a city, want to be able to provide enabling environment that will create opportunities for every Lagosian to be able to fulfill their dreams. This pillar has 76 initiatives under it. And then the third pillar is modern infrastructure. The modern infrastructure pillar has 92 initiatives. Incidentally, that is the pillar under which environment falls. Just like environment falls under pillar H in the Teams Plus agenda, under the LSDP 2050 plan, 52 plan, we fell under modern infrastructure. And I need to explain why we're under modern infrastructure. The built environment is on the environment. Everything you do, you build a house, you build a bridge, you are building an industry, is on the environment. So the environment is the one that supports infrastructure. And there's no infrastructure development that's not going to make impact on the environment. That is why the environment falls under the modern infrastructure, pillar of this development plan. And the 4th pillar is effective governance. Effective governance. Of course, Lagos is desirous of having a state where, government will provide an enabling environment for every Lagosian, where every Lagosian will feel safe to do business. So issues of security, safety, and all falls under this particular, pillar. And that pillar has 117 initiatives. In total, the LSDP 2052 has 447 initiatives. And these initiatives are to be implemented by the various MDAs of government in the state. Some will be with the support of development partners, but they are to be implemented by the various MDAs in the state. And this is how it works. There will be main implementing MDA, and then there will be supporting MDAs. So you can have initiatives, one initiative now, and you have the main MD that is implementing it, and then you can have about 5 or 6 supporting MDAs. These are MDAs whose activities, may impact on the success of that initiative. They are called supporting MDAs. They're supposed to also support the main MDA in achieving or in successfully implementing that initiative. I think I am almost done, so I will soon leave the stage. I spoke about the environmental protection sector of that of the LSDB 2052. It has two major focuses, and each of the two focuses, each of them has about 17 initiatives each. Focus number one is waste management, and it has 17 initiatives under it. The second one is water and sanitation. It also has 17 initiatives under it. These initiatives are to be implemented by the ministry and agencies under it, but to be supported by some other supporting MDAs. So I believe that these are the key things that we need to know, And so what I've tried to do is to summarize what we spoke about yesterday and to be able to produce a slide for all of us to have as a reference material. And I think my job is done here. And if there are questions, like yesterday, I didn't begin to mention policies that we have already in the state. I mentioned a few yesterday. I talked about the plastic waste management policy. I talked about this plan. I talked about the water, sanitation and hygiene, the WASH policy. And then, of course, I dive into the energy sector, and I talked about Lagos electricity policy and some other reforms, particularly in the transport sector. So basically, these are some of the things that I think we should just know. And then let me say lastly, before I leave, that of course, what we are doing is just to share knowledge and rub minds. Nobody, of course, know what the examiners are going to be asking in terms of interview. But whatever they ask, we should be able to, put our fingers on what we do. I know there's nobody listening to me that cannot say in few words what he or she does, and be able to relate what he or she is doing on a daily basis to the realization of the team's agenda and the Lagos State Development Plan 2050. We should be able to relate our activities to the realization of these major, plans of government. On this note, I'd like to say thank you for your attention and your time. Good evening. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor. My doctor.
Thank you, sir. Pastor.
The Lord bless you abundantly, sir.
Amen, sir.
God bless
and
you,
too,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Some of us, we tried earlier.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of
okay.
Appreciation to you.
Mr. Lasisi, Pastor Awoni is talking.
So please, we will appreciate if the money, we will appreciate if the course content can still be sent. We sincerely appreciate that of yesterday. I saw the one that Lasisi sent in. So we will appreciate if this one can be sent again, please.
You will get it. You will get it from Lasisi before the close of today. I will send it to Lasisi, and then he can make it available to everybody.
Thank you very much. That's highly appreciated.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Lasisi, thank you for organizing this. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much.
God bless you, sir.
Yep.
So, Lasisi, I yield the floor to you.
Yeah, we are true. It's just if anybody has any question, any observation, any contribution. So we have a few minutes to just round up. So we are good to go.
KSA,
we reach everybody.
KSA, that of yesterday, we are yet to see the slides. Where did you send it?
Which one? I've sent back.
You said the
doctor.
Yes, you said you are going to send it on the maybe the scientific officers platform. You didn't send it anywhere now.
Is there, sir?
Pastor,
Hello.
some of us are not on the scientific officer platform. Oh. Please, we need it on the promotion platform.
You are not on the Association of Senior Citizens?
Are you not National of Civil Servants of Nigeria? Okay, we will send it on SAN platform too. We'll send it on SAN platform. We'll send it to Science Officer platform. We'll send it to our Senior Civil Servants platform. You must come across it somewhere.
We need it on promotion platform too, sir. Please.
Please
help us. Promotion platform now. Your colleagues can send it now because we're not on that platform.
Help us move it from the Scientific Officer platform. It's there. I sent it yesterday night. Help us move it from there to promotion platform.
Okay, please. Anybody on the scientific platform should please help us move it on the promotion platform.
I will help on there now.
I was in the environment.
You should know, Master, you should know that your mother is there.
Okay, mommy.
Your mother is there, so don't worry.
Please send it to.
Please, whoever
your son needs it.
To register, go and register as a member. Go and register.
If you are a scientific
don't know where to register.
Outside the ministry. If you are a scientific officer, you're outside the ministry and you are not there. So please join. Just give your number to anybody. They will put you there.
Okay.
We want everybody. We want us scientific officers together.
All right. I'll call Pastor that.
Problem.
All right.
Good afternoon.
So if we don't have any question, if we don't have any observation, let's call it a day. Which everybody best of luck on the exam.
Maybe a great time with my
God will guide us. I'm closing the room. I'll send the presentation now, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Mrs. Ẹ̀yin tó ti pẹ́ ta ti rí ẹṣọ́ ojú yìí.
Thank you.
Mrs. Jẹ́jẹ́ ti pẹ́ ta ti rí ẹṣọ́ ojú yìí. Kó tiẹ̀ jẹ́ fọ́rọ̀ tàti ẹ̀ tí wá fi ráwọn kan rèé.
Ọmọlára Jẹ́jẹ́, let's see your face.
Let's see your face now.
Okay,
my face ta ti rí yìí now. Ogbe killer. Let's see you now.
Ọ̀gá mi ẹ̀ lè rí ojú ẹlẹ́hàá náà. Ọ̀gá mi ṣe fẹ́ wojú ẹlẹ́hàá yìí.
Ẹ̀yin ta fíìsì ẹjẹ́ ká rí fèsì yìí náà. Ẹ̀yin tó ti pẹ́ ta rí ẹjẹ́ ká rí fèsì yìí náà.
Sophie Tijani, we greet you. Jẹ́jẹ́ Ọmọlára is your picture you put there. We want to see your face.
Pastor.
Ó ti ṣí ojú ẹ̀.
It is your face we want to
Ó
see.
ti ṣí sí i.
Don't worry, I will see you in the office tomorrow.
Okay, Mrs. Odubena, I greet you.
I will see you tomorrow.
I've not seen
I like where you put your picture. God knows your house address.
Don't worry, you see my face tomorrow, sir.
Okay, have a fantastic evening.
Thank you very much, sir.
My leave now. God
Thank
bless
you, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Bye. Take care.